Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Would you like to learn from a top branding and marketing expert at Nike that you can implement in your business without spending a fortune? Then you're going to love this episode. I have to say, I cringe whenever my clients talk to me about marketing and social media spends, because more often than not, they are wasting money and they're getting very little in results. We spend a lot of time digging into their numbers to find out where the real value is in their spends and pivoting to using only the channels that are actually driving results. It's not always easy to figure this out. You've got to create systems so you know where your clients are coming from. I also want to make sure that the message is on point with who they want as customers. We have to be crystal clear and make it easy for people to take action. I like to focus a lot on giving and teaching as the best path to building credibility and offering value. Let's face it, that's what this podcast does. I give you value, and I don't even know most of you, but hopefully one day I will. And when we talk, it's usually because I provided tremendous value to you, and you just have a question for me, or maybe you want someone else to do this. We're going to cover how to create a profitable brand and marketing message today. Parker Nash is an 11-year veteran of Nike, where he grew lines of business to more than $500 million in annual revenue. While at Nike, he realized that the process they used to build their brand was something all businesses could do, which inspired him to build his own copywriting and marketing agency that helps small businesses attract devoted customers. He's helped startups, financial advisors, service-based businesses, e-commerce brands, and businesses from all backgrounds to develop winning brands. Let's learn from Parker today. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Parker Nash. It's great to have you join us today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, sure. So I spent 10 years, or actually, sorry, a little over a decade working at Nike in product and marketing. And for about, like I said, 11 or so years, had the opportunity to work there, one of the greatest branding, design, product, and marketing companies in the world. And through that, really got kind of a front row seat to how brands like Nike build and create product and market themselves to create raving fans. And what I kind of started to realize as I was going through this process of working through there was there was a lot of processes and principles that they put in place that if you just think about Nike as a small or medium-sized business owner, you'd think, how the heck could I build something like this? Because they have such enormous resources to go out there and get people's attention and do all these things to build their brand. And while it's never a bad thing to have $1 billion or more and spend to reach your ideal customers, most of what they've done actually is built on a few handful of principles that are just really what kind of you start to realize all these great businesses that are world renowned, really well known, are able to do. And as I started to realize that, I was seeing that through this experience of having to work with Nike and build product and make, build the lines of businesses, that many of these processes and principles I had learned aren't things that a lot of small and mid-sized businesses really do that well. And that's where I really started to get kind of hone in on this. I was like, man, these are things that, there's a lot of great businesses out there with great products and services that aren't reaching their customers and helping them to the best capability that they're able to do because they aren't doing some of these things. And so that's where, frankly, I started to have this, I've always kind of had this itch to go out and do something on my own, where I started to realize, I think I can help some of these small businesses implement some of these processes. And so now I'm a copywriter and marketer. And so I help small and mid-sized businesses stand out and grow by using many of these different principles that I learned through Nike. And I can, if you'd like, I can go into kind of one of the first examples of how we got into, or how I got into some of this work while I was still working at Nike, about how I tested this process out a little bit with a local furniture store here in Portland, Oregon, that I was able to do.
Yeah, let's do that. How did that work?
Yeah, so like I said, I had a couple friends that had this great furniture store in Portland, and I frankly had this itch where I'd seen their store, I'd been to their store, and I'd looked at their furniture and saw their furniture, and I was like, man, this is fantastic, a fantastic product they're doing. And it wasn't your typical like big box crate and barrel store furniture that they're bringing in. They were importing furniture and pieces from all over the world, a lot of stuff from India and Southeast Asia, South America. And what they were really looking for were unique woods, unique woods, and just a different look that you could find at big stores. And while this was really present and very obvious when you went to their store, it was totally lacking on their website. And frankly, unfortunately for them, their digital presence was really devaluing their brand and their product. It made it look, cheaper than what it really was. So, which was unfortunate because I kept going to this stuff, like drooling over their coffee tables and this furniture that they had. I'm like, man, I want to have my whole house to be outfitted with the furniture that they have in this store. So I approached them and said, hey guys, I think there's a couple things that we can do as a little test to revamp your digital presence and help, elevate your brand. So the first thing we did was really get clear on who their customer was, who their ideal customer was, and what they were looking for, and how that product that they had, their furniture, solved that problem that they had. And so that's where we started, and really that came through in creating a clear, unique, and distinct message that spoke to their customers, that would separate them from the Crate and Barrels or whoever else these big box stores might be competition within the Portland area. So that's where we started first, is creating a really simple and clear message that got their customers to engage. The second thing we did, once we used that as the foundation, I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Rocky?
I find this is the step that a lot of business owners don't understand is who's their customer and why are they buying?
Exactly. And we can actually, this is a good tangent to go off of. This is one of the principles that I learned at Nike working there. And it was one of those things I started to realize is, oh, I'm doing this day in, day out, working this process, and I'm taking this for granted as a skill that I have learned, an experience I've learned by working with this team of incredible designers and product people and marketers. And that's one of the best things that we realized was, Nike is doing this obviously at a much greater and grander scale and more complicated level because they're so enormous now and they serve so many consumers. But if you look at each one of their lines of businesses, they get extremely clear and sharp on who they're creating product for and who they're going to market it towards. They're not vague or like it's generally this kind of person. They play soccer, they play basketball. No. They actually get to a point where they have a muse and they drill down to really specific items so that the whole team can visualize what this person is doing, what they want, what they need, what motivates them. And they spend a lot of time really crystallizing that for the teams that are going to be creating product and marketing towards them. And that is one of the key starting points. In fact, we spent an inordinate amount of time doing that. And it wasn't just something where I think a lot of small and mid-sized businesses might do this. Hey, let's do an ideal customer avatar exercise. And they do it once and they put it aside and they're, hey, that was great, but they never review it again. Maybe they come back to it years later or something like that. At Nike, it was something that was reviewed every 3 months. I mean, you create product and you market on a quarterly basis. And so every 3 months before you started anything, you dug into reviewing, hey, what's happening with our consumer at this time of year, in this 3-month period? What are they dealing with? How can we help them? What are the problems that they're experiencing? And that really helped to inform what product and how are we going to reach them in a compelling way.
It's always going back to the basics and reviewing it and taking the time to think about your business instead of being stuck in your business.
Right. Yeah. So it's, it was something that you just, again, I kind of started to realize, man, I'm somewhat taking this for granted. I don't think a lot of small and mid-sized businesses do this on a routine basis. But I can say this, we never started any season without a review and a brainstorm. What's happening with our consumer? What's going on with them? How are we going to serve them in the next 3 months, 6 months, year? I mean, that was at the foundation of everything they did. In fact, they have some maxims at Nike that really hit at that, which is the consumer decides. And it was always about consumer. Everything they did, everything Nike does, they put their consumers first and they build product and market for their consumers. It's not about Nike. It's about the people that they're serving. It's always about that. So that was, going back to the furniture store. That was one of the first things that we did was, all right, getting clear on who we wanted to serve and creating a clear, compelling message that would get them to listen and engage. And if you don't do that, if you aren't talking about the things that your customers want to hear, then it's just a bunch of noise. And there's a handful of things that you really need to do to be able to compel your customers to listen. And a couple of those things, we can get into this if you like, but again, like the things that you really need to do in order to have that clear, compelling message is 1, really getting sharp on your ideal customer. 2, clearly identifying what is it that they want as it relates to your product or service. And then another thing is identifying the problem that they're experiencing. What is holding them back from getting what they want? That is something that is so key in order to get people to listen and pay attention. Because if you aren't talking about the problems that your customers have, there's really no reason for you to exist. If you can't help them with whatever it is as it relates to your product or service, well, then there's no reason to exist. And so that was something that we really focused quite a bit on at Nike, but then also applying this to the furniture store we did there too.
And that makes a lot of sense. You've got to have the focus on them, not you. And I think for a lot of small business owners, that's a mindset shift that they may not always make.
It's a huge, it's a huge mindset shift. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Rocky. But what I hear of this quite a bit is you have to tell your story. You have to tell your story. Yes, it's great to tell your story because it is what makes you unique and makes you relatable and makes people want to connect to you. But you need to tell your story so that it always places your customers or consumers at the heart of it. Otherwise, you're just pounding your chest and bragging, right? And that's what these great brands like Nike or Apple or whoever on that level are able to do. Is everything they communicate and talk about is about their consumers, not about Nike. It's about how can we help you become a better athlete? How can we help you overcome these obstacles and problems that you're having? And they do it in a way that's always talking about them and putting them at the center of that story they're telling.
And I think a big part of that, and it's one thing that I know of, is I am not the hero for people, right? I'm just the person showing you a path. Business owners are my heroes. They're the ones who are doing the hard work and going out and living the battle. My job is to help them to achieve their goals. I'm not the hero in their story. And that's another thing that I think people don't always realize. We're not supposed to be the hero.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's, I guarantee you pretty much any brand you'll see on a TV spot that's, globally known, just pay attention to how they talk, market, advertise, and brand themselves. They're not talking about themselves. They're talking about how their products or services help their consumers. It's all about how they help and serve their consumers. So, and it's pretty day and night generally, because oftentimes like an ad by Apple or Nike, one of these companies, will be on TV, and then you'll see, I think the most predictable one is usually like local car dealership ad comes on right after. And here's this one about Nike talking about how the products or services the products Nike makes are going to help them become an elite athlete or better athlete or enjoy running, blah, blah, blah. It's all about their consumers. And then the local dealer, auto dealer comes on, and it's about, I started this dealership 50 years ago because I love cars, and it's all about them who started the business. They don't talk about why you should come to the dealership, how we're going to get you the best deal possible, how it's going to be an easy process, how much you're going to love driving this car. They talk about all about themselves and just position themselves as the hero and the focal point of the story they're telling, which is, well, I don't, sorry, but, here's a cold, hard fact. No one really cares about our businesses. They only care about how our businesses can help them, right?
That is correct.
So, go ahead, yeah.
No, I was going to ask, what else do we need to learn?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the furniture store. This is a long way of answering this and talking through this. But so first, ideal customer avatar. Then as the foundation, customer clarity and an engaging, compelling message. Next, that's like your bedrock of how you can build your brand and market yourself and your product and service. Then from there, we built out the key marketing assets they needed in order to engage and attract those ideal customers that they identified. So that really started with their website. And again, this is where that message and customer clarity really needs to come to life. Because when someone comes to your website for the first time, I mean, listen, like our attention is so divided and short. You really have to catch them quickly on, give them a reason of why should you stay here? Why should you care? So that goes back to those elements of customer clarity and the message that you're creating. Hey, we know you want this, but you're dealing with this problem. Here's how we solve that with our products and services. So that's what we did. The second step was create this really beautiful website that really told a unique story about their customers and showcased how the furniture that they had would help them create an amazing space in their home that they never wanted to leave, because it just made them feel so proud and unique and distinct and showcased their unique sense of style and their worldly sense of style, because most of their furniture was coming from all over the world, right? So that was the next thing we did, was create an effective website. And then after that, it was really about making sure that you have the pieces in place to go and engage your customers. Do you have a way to build your email list and capture emails? Because, especially for most of our businesses, unless you're selling a $10 product, most people will not buy the first time they come to your website. So if you aren't giving them a free resource, or what we call lead magnet or lead generator, in exchange for their email address, you're going to lose that customer. They're going to forget about you, and they're just going to go on about their day. So this is also where we created a free resource to help people define their unique sense of style, to help decorate their room with different furniture pieces. How do you decide these? So we made this really cool resource that would able to enable them to do that, and then build out the process of, all right, how can you continue to build a relationship, trust, and nurture them through email marketing? Because that's such a key thing for us too, which is staying in front of your customers with helpful, useful tips, and also reminding them that you exist, so that when they are eventually ready to buy that coffee table 6 months from now, you're the one that's stayed in front of them for the last handful of months to remind them with great tips and reminding them how cool this furniture looks, that, oh yeah, this is a place I want to go visit right now and go buy a coffee table. So long story short, after doing that work with them, revamping their digital presence, we did that over a summer, and we did a bunch of photography to make sure we had some great photos of their furniture. The first week that we relaunched their website, one of my buddies sent me a text and said, hey, I can't believe this, but we just sold a coffee table on our website for the first time. Up until then, all their business was purely based on foot traffic coming through their store. And within 1 week of relaunching their website, they had someone actually go on it, check out a coffee table, and buy it online, which was, probably a $500, $600 coffee table. That was in week one. And at that point, I was still working at Nike. This was kind of a little bit of a side hustle for this at this point. The level of satisfaction and reward in helping my friends succeed in business, I was just kind of doing this like, hey, I think this will be a fun project to do. And, if it helps them, great. I found out, one, wow, this stuff really works. Two, that was so much fun and it was so rewarding. I want to do more of this, and I want to do more of this all the time. and as much fun as it was to work and have that ability to impact people with, millions of product, the reach that Nike has, it's hard to repeat that level of satisfaction of one-to-one helping a business owner succeed in building their business. And I'm sure you would agree with that too. I mean, it's just a tremendous level of satisfaction to be able to see someone else succeed.
It is. It's a lot of fun to work with people and have impact and know that you are solely responsible for the impact. So that is always an enjoyable and a fun process. And small business owners need a lot of help, and a lot of times they can't get good help. And that is also a major problem. Too often there's too many people who are saying they're going to help them, but they don't get results. And that's the biggest problem I run into with marketing, is they spend a lot of money, or they think they need to build a website and they need to do social media and we need to do this. And more often than I find that they don't get the results they wanted after spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, because they didn't answer the first set of questions. Who is my customer? What do they want? How do I serve them? Where are they hanging out? And what are they looking for? And what I find is the business owner knows that maybe, but they don't always translate that to the people doing their brand building and marketing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is two things on that. I mean, one, absolutely, oftentimes they have a clear picture within their minds, but they haven't communicated it to the rest of the team. And this is where having these documented and frameworks of Who are we targeting? Reviewing those are on a quarterly basis, and a messaging framework to go, this is how we talk to our customers the right way. These are the things that we need to talk about, what they want, the problem they're experiencing, and how you help them. If you don't have that clearly stated and in a concise and consistent manner, you're gonna miss the mark. And this is where, if you think about what makes good marketing, it's two things: consistency and repetition, amongst clarity as well. So you have the clarity, but then once you have the clarity, it's consistently repeating the same message over and over and over, and making sure everybody on your team is repeating that same consistent message over and over.
And that's very true. It takes time and it's multiples. But the one thing that I think the business owner may know what their clients want, but if they haven't learned to speak in their client's language, there is a disconnect. And so having that ability to use the client's language, I think, is super, super important. And that's where things really change because, well, you're speaking their words, you're speaking their language, their fears, their pains. And so that's super, super important.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And this goes back to what we were saying about how Nike and and all these really well-known brands, they put everything they do is with their consumer and their customers at the center of it, right? And that means they speak using their language. And, this is something I see, especially with more technical businesses or, like you get into the tech world or engineering or people that are really, really smart. Unless they are speaking to someone that is the equivalent of them within their specific field, they lose people all the time because they aren't using the language that their customers use. And amongst that too, often they default to teching out their product or service by talking about features and functions. But our customers oftentimes don't know what those features and functions do. But two, you're leaving it up to interpretation of what those features and functions do for them. People don't care that Nike's putting this incredible foam into a new shoe. They care about what the foam is going to do for them as they run. And that's where brands really get this and nail this is, hey, when you have this foam in your shoe, you're going to run faster, run happier, run lighter, reduce injury. It's all these benefits, outcomes. They're painting a picture of what life will look like after using their products or services. And conversely, they also do a great job of painting a picture of what life's going to look like if they don't use their products or service. What are the consequences of not you buying your products and services? Because you have to help people overcome our resistance to change and action, right? So you have to talk about what are you going to get and what are you going to avoid by making this decision with us?
It's all basic sales. Again, it's taking the time to do it. And it's also taking the time to survey your clients and your customers and hearing it back from them. Too often we think we know what they want, but we haven't actually heard them. And
exactly,
we keep repeating that.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And, and here's another great thing I do working with a lot of clients. And as I work on their messaging and their copywriting for their marketing collateral, if it's a large organization, a larger team, before we do any of the work, the people I want to talk to first are the sales teams, account managers, customer support teams, or basically anybody that is day in, day out working with customers and their consumers, because they are the ones that are hearing and listening to what they have to say. And great marketing, great messaging is basically just relaying what the customer's telling to you, right? It's understanding, again, going back to this, what do they want? What's keeping them from getting what they want? And what will life look like after using their products or services? That's the key thing. And so getting, really latching on and connecting to those people within your organization that are closest to your customers and consumers is so key in incorporating them into your marketing collateral.
Makes total sense. What else do we need to focus on?
I mean, gosh. Yeah, there's the couple things I think is, so we've talked about, clarity in terms of who you serve and the message to actually get them to engage. We've talked a bit about the assets that I think every small and mid-sized business must have in order to engage customers. That's an effective website, a lead magnet to build your email list so you can engage them, and a process to engage them through email marketing on a routine basis so you're top of mind when they want to overcome and address the problems that they're dealing with that your product or service solves. I think the last thing we really need to think about is, that's great. You can have a clear plan on who you want to serve, and you can have the greatest marketing collateral in the world. You can have the coolest looking website, but it won't mean anything unless you have a system to attract your customers and consumers. And this is another thing that I've seen quite a bit is, and what, a typical myth I've seen quite often with small and mid-sized businesses, which is the myth of, if you build it, they will come. If I build this cool website, they will come. If I have a cool looking brand, great logo, great fonts, great colors, all this kind of stuff, they will come. That is, if you believe that, you're setting yourself up for a major disappointment. And maybe this goes in what you were saying earlier about wasting money on marketing. That will be a lot of money spent for no return. So you have to figure out, what is your process to attract your ideal customers? And I think there's kind of three major buckets within that you can look at in order to do that. And depending on where you are in your business and size and scale, it may be a couple strategies within here, or maybe deploying all of them. But a couple different things you can do is thinking about what I call build, buy, and borrow. You can build an audience. So this is a long-term strategy, but can be through blogging or podcasting or building a social media presence, all these different strategies of you're going to build your audience through more of like content marketing. Certainly is great to have and necessary to have, but for most businesses, you're not just going to show up someplace and boom, you have 1 million subscribers, followers, and something like that. It's a strategy to have and deploy, but no, that's a long-term one. The second one is buying. And if you have the resources to do this, it's great. You can go paid ads, SEO, all these different strategies to go to Facebook or YouTube or Google and whatever it is to buy traffic to your site. Again, that's great, but it's also a great opportunity to waste a ton of money, because if you haven't done the work, going back to the clarity piece of who's my ideal customer and nailing the messaging, talking about the motivations that your customers are thinking about or struggling with, or the problems that they have as it relates to your product or service. If you aren't nailing that messaging, that ad spend is just going to be totally gone to waste. So second is borrow. The last one is second one is buy. The last one is borrow. So it's build, buy, borrow. And borrow is oftentimes, I think, something that is often overlooked. People just think, well, I got to build an audience, or I'm going to go spend money on Facebook and I'll drive them to me. Well, borrow is something that great brands do all the time. I mean, in the fashion world, like Nike, they do this. This is something kind of a linchpin to their success and expanding their reach. Is they have a fancy word for it. They call it the collab, but it's a collaboration. And this is something small and mid-sized businesses can absolutely and should do. And Nike will collaborate with other brands that their consumers are attracted to. So it could be a high-end designer. It could be other athletes. It could be other brands that are servicing their Nike's consumers with non-competitive products or services. So they will, for example, collaborate with a brand to design a specific shoe or apparel line or whatever it is. And by doing that together, both these brands now are borrowing the trust and credibility that they have built already, and now cross-pollinating their audiences together to serve their consumers. So I think that's an incredible strategy, which is borrowing other people's audiences to serve their consumers in the end. And there's different ways to do that. So you can do the collaboration. You can do guest blogging. You can do guest podcasting. You can host webinars and workshops. I mean, Rocky, I'm sure you do a lot of this quite a bit, but these are great ways to to help serve your consumers and without having to spend a ton of money. Oftentimes it's more of just time commitment and a little bit of elbow grease.
And when you don't have a ton of money, that's the way we do things. We figure out how to be more resourceful, how to figure out ways to do it without spending a fortune, because it's not hard to spend a fortune.
It's not hard to spend a fortune. And it can be, again, if you don't have the principles in place to set that up, you can waste a ton of money fast. And again, the build process of attracting customers and clients, that's great, but it's going to take a lot longer. So why not go to the faster route of, there's a lot of other people out there and other brands that have done the hard work of building audiences that if you go and help them serve them, they want you to come, because if you're coming with a non-competitive product or service, you're providing their customers with greater value. They want you to do that because that makes them more attractive to their ideal customers as well, too.
Makes total sense. Well, we've covered a lot today. And I think sometimes, I know as a business owner, you listen to this and you go, this is all wonderful, but will you just do it for me? But, and before you say that, I think the big part is you need to understand so that you can appropriately judge the person doing it for you to make sure that you're getting the results that you want. So if you can do this yourself, go do this yourself. If you need help and you've got a marketing budget, then take the time to plan it out and do it appropriately. If people would like to learn more about your services and connect with you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. It says Parker Nash. There's fortunately not a whole lot of other Parker Nashes out there. So you should be able to search, find me there. And then if you're thinking, if you're a business owner or leader and you're wondering if you can, you're not really satisfied with the results your marketing's getting for you, I have a free resource you can download. You just go to my website. It's at parkertnash.com/boost. And it's called the 3-Part Business Boost. It's 3 free videos that will show you a simple process with concrete examples on how to transform your marketing, attract more customers, and grow your business. So again, parkertnash.com/boost is where you can find that.
And we'll put that all in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Rocky.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. My name is Geeta, and I am another one of the Profit First professionals on the team at Profit Comes First, and I'm here today to just give you some questions to think about. Parker and Rocky focus today on what it means to understand your client, solve their problems, and explain how you solve their problems in their own language. This week's questions to think about all center around your ideal client and how you can best serve them. Are you focusing on your customers' problems and how to solve them? This is a really simple question, but it's easy to overlook. Sometimes we forget to see our business as something that serves others. Do you know specifically what your ideal customers' problems are, and does your branding explain that? Is everyone on your marketing team on the same page about who your ideal client is and how to speak their language, or do you need to create or share the framework with those who are helping you with branding? These are tough questions to wrestle with because they require thought, research, and time. The time and effort is worth it, though, if you can better serve your clients and customers and increase your profits while doing so. Don't forget to check out Parker's services in the show notes if you'd like help with your marketing. If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. You have your own area of expertise, and maybe you want to spend more of your time doing what you love. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Hey, it's Rocky. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about life beyond money and how to live that ultimate life and become a better leader in your company. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.